So guys, whenever you go to any interview, let's say any company, so they will ask you first question, which module you have worked in F5. Have you worked on LTM, GTM and ASM? So let's discuss today about LTM. Next series, we will discuss about ASM. So from now onwards, whoever enrolled us, every 1 month, we will have interview related to LTM, GTM and ASM, Palo, Alto, Fortigate and Python. So whoever has enrolled, that is a free thing which we'll be giving with you. So how we will help you, let's understand so that you will get an idea. So the first question which everyone will ask you is, what is the difference between LTM versus GTM? Second question which is asked in an interview is, can you tell me what are the hardware module which you have worked? What are the hardware module or hardware boxes you have configured? Third question, guys, they will ask you about what is the difference between one arm versus two arm. So let's discuss in detail. Question is, what is the difference between one arm mode versus two arm mode? So when I talk about one arm mode, guys, in one arm mode, you will have F5. Let me draw a picture for one arm and two arm. You have servers. One arm mode in F5. Don't get confused. So first one is one arm using F5 and second one is two arm using F5. So in one arm mode, you will have, let's say, one client here, one client here. Then you have F5. Let's say this is one interface of F5. Then you have, I'm just drawing one cloud. You have client here and you have servers. Server can be multiple servers, guys. So you will have one VIP, you have one client, and you have VIP IP here and server IP. So there will be full proxy architecture. Whether it is one arm or two arm, there will be full proxy architecture. But in one arm, what does it mean? One arm means only one interface of F5 is used, guys. Can you see? Your client and F5 traffic both are traversing using one interface. In and out is going via one interface, which means your common network. You have only one VLAN and one self IP. So in a previous environment, we discussed about external network, internal network. But here in one arm mode, you will only have one interface of F5. So you have one common interface where your client and server will be connected. So single arm means your load balancer is not inline. Your client and servers are in same network. That is one arm, one interface of F5. One common VLAN will be used. So people will say whether SNAT is required or not. So guys, don't get confused. One arm means only one interface of F5 is used. Two arm means two interface of F5 is used. So what is the live example? So let's say I have an internet, I have F5, I have a servers, or let's say, okay, ignore it. So I'm drawing one picture, try to understand. I have a client on internet. We have a firewall. Then we have an F5. And we have servers that is also hosted on AWS. That is hosted on AWS on internet. And your default gateway of servers would be your firewalls. Try to understand, guys, one arm live example, guys. This is the favorite interview question which will be asked in every production environment. Whenever you go to the customer meeting also, you will ask your customer whether you will deploy one arm or two arm. So that's why it is very important to understand. So in this scenario, guys, how one arm is used. Can you see this? One interface of F5 is used. That is called firewall F5 interface. Or you can say firewall to F5 segment. Are you seeing any two interface? So that is what is called one arm mode. Only one interface of F5 is used. So your traffic will go to F firewall, then it will come to F5, but F5 will see, oh, my servers are on internet. So F5 will have one default route. So default route will be pointing to your firewall. So what will happen? For incoming traffic also, this interface is used. For outgoing traffic also, this interface is used. So one arm means one interface is used for incoming traffic, the same interface is used for outgoing traffic. Because your servers are hosted also on internet. So that is called one arm mode on F5. Your request will go to firewall, firewall will come to F5, F5 will see that my servers are also on internet. So F5 will again send traffic to your firewall using its routing table. So in F5, you will have one default route pointing to your firewall for your server network. So same interface will be used for incoming and outgoing. Someone asks you what is one arm, you can give this as a live scenario. Same interface, or you can say same VLAN will be used for incoming and outgoing. Okay, guys. What is two arm now? We have discussed about one arm use case. What is two arm mode? Trust me, guys, if you attend our interview guidance, whoever has enrolled, I can 100% give you guarantee you can crack any interview. That I can challenge. What is two arm? In two arm, let's say we have a client. We have one client here. Then we have this, let's say this is one firewall. Then we have F5. Then we have another firewall. Then we have server 1, server 2, server 3. So this one network is called front end network. This network is called backend. So in this case, guys, you tell me whether it's using one arm mode or a two arm mode, guys. Here, do you have two interfaces of F5 or only one interface of F5? So here you will have two interfaces. One interface is for front end, that is called external network. One interface for internal. So that is where it is called two arm mode architecture, where you have two arms in picture and your F5 is coming in line. Your external network will be on separate network. Your internal network will be on separate VLAN. Very important term, guys. This is the first interview question which I wanted to discuss today. So in our environment also, guys, when I was deploying today in lab setup, I have deployed two arm architecture where I have one external network, one internal network, one HA network. That is, you can ignore it. So your external traffic from the internet will be coming to external. And if someone wants to send traffic to the server, that will use your internal VLAN. Now, another question which comes into mind is, what is SNAT? SNAT, everyone will answer. But the question which I will modify is, can someone tell me the 4 use cases of SNAT? So first thing you need to understand what is SNAT. Let's say I have an F5, I have a client, then I have a router, then I have server. Server 1, server 2, server 3. Your client traffic is going via F5. Then F5 will send traffic to server. But your server default gateway is not F5. Server gateway is router. In this case, what it will do is there will be asymmetric drafting. So what will happen in this case? There will be asymmetric routing which will happen. So in this case, your client will send traffic to F5, F5 will send traffic to the server, but server will send traffic to router, then router will send traffic to client directly. So in this case, F5 will get bypassed. So client was sending traffic to F5, but response traffic client is expecting from F5, but it's receiving from a router. So what is happening? Asymmetric routing. So traffic is going via this way, client to F5, then you have server, let's say server 1, then you have a router or a layer 3 firewall, then you have client. So your traffic incoming is going correct way, but client wants to accept the traffic from this path only. But instead of going this, server is sending traffic to default gateway, which is pointing to router, and router is sending traffic to client. So that is where SNAT comes into picture. So SNAT makes sure that your request and response traffic follows the same path. So first use case is it resolves your asymmetric routing problem. Second use case is, guys, let's say you have multiple servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. Then you have F5, then you have internet. Let's say this server wants to take some updates, patching update from internet. So how it will take? So you need to have multiple many to one translation. So by default, F5 only performs one-to-one NAT. So if I go here, let me show you practically. When you go to F5, guys, when you click login, admin, when you go here, local traffic address translation NAT. In NAT, when you go, I will delete this. When you go to create option, you only have an option for one-to-one NAT. Can you see this? You have one origin IP and one NAT IP. So by default, F5 only have an option to do one-to-one NAT. But my scenario is, guys, I have multiple servers. Then I have F5 which is coming into picture. Then I have internet which is coming into picture. My server wants to take all updates from internet. How it can do? So that is only can be done on SNAT, where you will do many to one NAT. So where what you will do, you will go to address translation, SNAT transaction list, or you can click on SNAT list, create. Can you see this? You, let's say I want to translate my server IP. I have server IP server 1 10.2.2.30. This server has IP 10.2.2.31. This server has IP 10.2.2.32. And I want them to be translated into 8.8.8. That you can do. You will select origin, address list. Here you will give IP address 10.2.2.30, 31, and 32. Then you will have a translation IP 8.8.8, and you will give patch, update, anything you can give, and finish. So that is the another use case of SNAT. So it's already been used. Maybe I will give any other IP 4.2.2. So that is how you can create another SNAT. Maybe this is already configured, so that's why it's giving error, but this is the another use case. Now guys, another use case of SNAT is in when your client, sometimes your client and servers are on same network. So in this case, what will happen? You will have client, then you have F5, then you have server, server 1, server 2, server 3. So what will happen? Client will send traffic to F5 to the server because it's a full proxy by default. But server will check its table, route table or MAC table. Here I'm talking about if client and server are on same network. Mean they are connected in common network. In that case also we need SNAT. Why? Because when server send a traffic, server will see, oh, my client is in on same network. So it will bypass your routing table. It will check MAC address and it will send traffic to the client directly because both are in same network. So client was sending to traffic to F5. F5 is sending traffic to the server, but server is directly sending to the client, bypassing F5. Client was expecting response traffic from F5, but it is not receiving. So that is also where your SNAT use case comes into picture. Another scenario, guys, another interview question which comes into picture is how to upgrade F5. What are the important things which you need to take consideration using upgrade of F5? So first thing is, guys, your licensing should be, there is one condition here, maybe you will not get right now, service check date versus license check date. So sometimes people will ask you when you upgrade F5, what are the prerequisites? What things you need to check before upgrading? So first thing, when your service check date and license check date are not verified, you will not, your upgrade will not be get successful. So that thing we will discuss in later stage, but this is the prerequisite before upgrading any F5. Another important scenario which comes into picture is fourth interview question is, what is difference when you create any virtual server? What is the difference between addressed? So when I open this, I will show you. When I go to virtual server, let me open any virtual server. I will go to advanced. You will see two things here. What is the difference between address translation and a port translation? Very, very important interview question, guys, which will be asked. What is the difference between an address translation versus port translation on virtual server? If I deselect it, what will happen? So address, let's say I have a client, I have F5, I have three servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. Then I have address translation. So address translation means you have one VIP IP 192.168.1.60 and you want that to be translated into 10.2.2.30, 10.2.2.31, 10.2.2.32. So that is what address translation will do. I show you the data table, right? I show you the packet, network packet, where your VIP was getting translation into your server IP. That is where it goes translate. If you disable it, that will not happen. Very, very important, guys. This is where how F5 will perform destination NAT. Your packet is getting translated to your server IP. And what does port translation means? Port translation means, let's say your virtual server is on 443 port, but your pool members are on 80 port. Let's say this is 80, this is 80, this is 80. If your virtual server is on different port and if your pool members are on different port, then you need port translation also. So that is where, guys, if you don't work on F5, if you don't work on production, these interview questions you cannot answer. So this is the demo which I was giving. This is the questions which can be asked in interview. Next question, guys, which is generally asked in interview, which is the last thing generally. Maybe after your question, I will take another Q&A. So stay with me. Next question which is asked in interview is how to deploy F5 from scratch. When you got any requirement, how to deploy F5 from scratch. You have a requirement from a customer that you need to deploy F5 from scratch. What are the things you need to take care? First question you will ask is whether you will be deploying on one arm versus two arms. First question. Second question is how many applications, very, very important question, guys, which will be asked in an interview. How many application you want to deploy on F5? This is the second question which will be asked. Third question is what is the load balancing algo you want to configure? You need to ask this question from customer. Fourth question is whether it's a normal layer 4 load balancer you want to implement or you want any layer 7 feature also. This is the fourth question which you will ask from your customer when you deploy any application on internet on load balancer. Fifth question is what are the network segment? What will be your web segment IP? What will be your server segment IP? This is the fifth question which we will ask your customer. Sixth question is, do you need any cookie persistence? Whether it's a banking application or what is the case. Seventh is, what is the health monitor you want to configure? Whether you want only normal ICMP monitor or TCP monitor or any HTTP monitor. And the eighth point, who will do the DNS resolution? And whether you want any logs, you want to store logs on any remote server or you want to keep it on normal F5. That is the ninth question which you will be asked. So guys, whenever you deploy any F5 from scratch, you need to take consideration of architecture, network point of view, how many application needs to deploy it, what is the algo you want to follow, whether your traffic will be normal L3 traffic or layer 4 or layer 7. So it depends on your virtual server. Then you will see cookie persistence related. So this is very important, guys. I've been working from the last 10 years, so I know what an interviewer expect. So now, guys, after 10 minutes, I will take again interview session. So before that, let me close that and let's have a